Hey everyone, it's Anne-Marie from Basque here, and today we are continuing our series of videos on Basque immigration all around the world to talk about Basques in the Philippines specifically. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Basque every week brings you new videos about the Basque country, Basque people, and Basque culture. So today we're talking about the Philippines. This is a subject I'm really excited about. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I didn't know anything about this until yesterday when I did a little bit of research for it. I had heard that there were Basques in the Philippines. I knew that there were Filipinos with Basque names, but I really didn't look into it ever. So today, just for you guys, I have done just that. So my little disclaimer is that I'm not a historian. I'm just somebody who read some things on the internet, and if you want to learn more, I definitely encourage you to do your own independent research. But if that sounds okay with you, here we go. What I learned about Basques in the Philippines, very similar to the Basques in Latin America video that I just did, in that Basques were really involved in Spanish colonization of the Americas, but also around the world, and that brought them to the Philippines in the 16th centuries. So if you want to learn more about why Basques were so involved in Spain's colonization, you can go back and watch the Latin America video. I'll link to it in the description below. But for right now, all we need to know is that the first contact that Spain officially had with the Philippines was with Magellan's voyage to circumnavigate the globe. You may have heard of it. Basically, Spain was trying to get to Asia because it was a really promising trade route. But at the beginning of the 16th century, the Portuguese were actually dominating the Horn of Africa route. So basically going from Europe all the way around Africa to Asia was locked in by the Portuguese. So the Spanish were trying to find a way to get to Asia, but from the other side. So the Spanish crown funded this expedition to go around the Americas and hopefully find Asia, and they hired this guy Magellan to do it. But the thing with Magellan was that he was actually Portuguese. So they were a little suspicious of him, and they decided, you know what, to ensure the success of the mission for the Spanish crown, they decided to man his crews with mostly Spanish people, and that meant that there were a lot of Basques on the cruise of the Magellan expedition because Basques were very good sailors. When the Magellan expedition did finally get to the Philippines in 1521, Magellan was actually killed there in a scuffle with the natives. Basically, he was demanding from this chieftain some provisions to go on his merry way, and the guy was not having it. So Magellan got killed, and what did that leave them with? That left them with his second in command in charge, who was actually a Basque man from Guetaria, Guipúzcoa, Juan Sebastián Elcano. You may have heard of him. You may have seen the statue of him if you visited Guetaria. But he is actually the first man who circumnavigated the globe because Elcano continued the journey back to Europe. So Magellan gets all the credit, but it was a Basque guy that did it. So Europeans went to the Philippines in 1521, but the Spanish didn't officially set up a settlement in the Philippines until 1565, and that was with the Legazpi Urdaneta expedition. So Legazpi was a Basque guy who was sent to set up settlements in the Philippines. So first he was in Cebu, and then he built a settlement in Manila as well. And Urdaneta was an Augustinian priest that went with the expedition, and he was charged with Christianizing the native population. So he was really the first official Basque missionary in the Philippines. Some people say that St. Francis Xavier himself made it to the Philippines because he did some missions in Asia, and he did die off the coast of China. But a lot of academics actually dispute that fact and say that that's a myth. He never actually made it to the Philippines. Because Basques were some of the first Spanish people to arrive in the Philippines, they were the first to set up businesses. And so because of that, just like in Latin America, a lot of Basques became very wealthy. And even today, many of the major corporations in the Philippines have Basque names because they were started by Basque people. As you can imagine, with Basques first coming over in the 16th century and them being such a small group compared to the native population, there was a lot of intermarriage over the years. Basically, awareness of Basque people and Basque culture is like really low from what I've read in the Philippines. Because Basques were kind of lumped in with the colonizers, which are Spanish essentially, a lot of Basques or Basque names or Basque heritage is thought of as being Spanish in the Philippines, and they use this term Castilla to just kind of refer to all people coming from Spain, whether they're Castilian or not. So there's very low awareness of actual Basque country and Basque culture. So Filipinos of Basque descent are 100% Filipino. They may be aware of some Basque ancestry or European ancestry, but they identify as Filipino for the most part. Now, during the Spanish Civil War, kind of similar to what was happening in Latin America, Basques in exile were going around the world, and some did end up in the Philippines. So there are some Filipinos who are closer in the immigration history, second, third generations, who maybe are more aware of their Basque ancestry and maybe more politically identify with being Basque because their ancestors came over so recently and for a very specific political purpose. So there are Basques in the Philippines who know there are Basques, but overall, Filipinos of Basque descent don't really know too much about the Basque country, and as a result, there are no Escuela, no Basque centers in the Philippines. In my research on the Philippines, I also stumbled upon some details about World War II. So during the Second World War, the Philippines was occupied by Japan, and apparently during that time, Basques were seen with some suspicion in Filipino society. When Japan had some victories in the Philippines in 1942, Franco himself did congratulate the Japanese forces, so that did not make things easier for the Spanish people and Basque people living in the Philippines, whether they agreed with Franco or not. They were all kind of lumped in with this official Spanish support for the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. So as you can imagine, that was not very popular with Filipinos. Although for the majority of Filipinos of Basque descent did participate in resistance movements against Japan. But overall, during World War II, apparently it was kind of this sketchy time where anybody associated with Spain was looked kind of down upon. If you want to learn more about Basques in the Philippines and Filipinos of Basque descent, there is a book I discovered. I didn't have time to buy it and read it before making this video. It's called Basque in the Philippines by Marciano de Borja. I'm going to link to that in the description if you want to check that out. And if you've already read it, please let me know in the comments if it's worth recommending or not. It's not an official endorsement because, like I said, I haven't read it. All right, that's about the extent of my knowledge of Basques in the Philippines, so I'm gonna end this video right here. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you want to keep in touch with future videos, definitely subscribe to the Hello Basque YouTube channel, and you can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Hello Basque. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.